Si Pauline Ordilio. O si Sir Padolina, Dr. Padolina, andyan na. Sino ba Hil Domingo kayo? Si Pauline Ordilio. Pauline Ordilio. O si Sir Padolina, Dr. Padolina, andyan na. Sino ba Hil Domingo kayo?
Bakit ako'y nag-ano na naman?
Pauline Ordilio.
Bakit ako'y nag-e-echo na naman?
Pauline Ordilio. O si Sir Padolina, Dr. Padolina, andyan na.
O bakit
Ray,
Domingo kayo? Bakit ako'y nag-ano na naman?
Pauline Ordilio.
Bakit ako'y
Ray,
nag-e-echo na naman?
Pauline
Bakit ako'y
Ordilio.
nag-e-echo na naman?
Padolina, andyan na.
Andyan si Ray. Then B.
Hello, ma'am.
Ayun. Kanina kasi nag-e-echo na naman ako. Ano ba
Kasi,
yun?
pagka-launch ko ng YouTube, hindi pa siya nakamute eh. So, pagka-mute ko,
Okay.
echo.
Kala ako'y madadali na naman. Diyos ko po. Bakit ako'y nag-e-echo na naman? Merly,
Peter. Andyan na si Sir Peter. Si Ma'am Lilia. Si Ma'am Sonny. Andyan na.
Start na natin yung recording, ma'am, or ano?
Huwag muna.
Mamaya pa. Huwag muna.
Wag na. Okay, sige.
Emily Manawa. Oras na po. BPI Biotech. And this is Shark.
Okay yung ano man, yung YouTube. I-post ko din to sa Facebook natin.
Baka sabihin na naman ni Mami, masyado tayong malapit sa camera. Zyrate. Jack. Aray, pagkatapos mo ng national anthem, wag mo na ako introduce kasi singit na lang ako. I need no introduction. I need no introduction. Okay.
Okay na tayo.
Pwede na mag-admit. Mga kilala lang.
Pa-check, wait lang po. Pa-check po ng ano niyo, ma'am. Ma'am, sino ba?
Sino? Admit nyo na.
Yes, ma'am. Admitting.
Hmm.
Medyo marami lang po. 60 plus.
Mga dati na rin naman. Mga dati.
83 participants. Good afternoon, everyone. Just to give way for those who are still in the process of entering our virtual meeting room, we'll start the meeting in around 2 minutes. Thank you very much. Hello, good afternoon, everyone. So we will now start with the program of activities for today. I am Raymond Corona from the NCBP Secretariat. Now, before we formally start the second multi-stakeholders consultation for the review for the revised DOST, DA, DENR, DOH Joint Department Circular, may I request everyone to stand up for our national anthem.
Bayang magiliw, pelas ng silanganan, alam ng puso, sa dibdib mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, tuyat ka ng magiting, sa manlupa.
Okay, magandang hapon po sa lahat. Good afternoon. Welcome to our second stakeholders consultation on the proposed revision on the Joint Department Circular Number 1 series of 2016. So by the way, I am Malu Agbagala from the National Committee on Biosafety Secretariat. And for our first attendees, the NCBP, for your information, the NCBP created the technical working group last 2019 to review the JDC. And it was just unfortunate that this pandemic happened. So it took the technical working group almost 2 years to finish the document, to finish the review, and then came up with the document. So again, for the second time, the NCBP Secretariat will do the presentation, and we will also facilitate the discussion. And just some house rules before we proceed. Your active participation is very important in this undertaking. But right now, we have to unmute everyone so that we can avoid background noises that may distract you from listening to our presentation. And so throughout the presentation, we will be managing the chat functionality. You will have the opportunity to text or submit your questions and comments in the chat box. And you can also use the raise hand icon on the control panel to indicate that you have questions or comments. So the Secretariat will collect all questions and comments, and we will try to answer some of them, but all of these questions and comments will be forwarded to the technical working group for discussion and for consideration. So, and also we would like to inform you that this webinar, this consultation is also broadcasting live in YouTube, and there's also somebody from the Secretariat who will be monitoring the YouTube, and they will also take note of all the questions and comments from YouTube. So we can proceed before. Let's now proceed. So I would like to call Raymond to do the presentation.
Right. So again, magandang hapon. Good afternoon po sa ating lahat. We are now in the second multi-stakeholders consultation for the revised Joint Department Circular. The first installment of this activity was made last August 10, 2021. So a brief overview of our program of activities for today. So presentation would cover actually the background on the review of the revised JDC and the presentation of salient provisions of the revised JDC. And then there's a portion in our program wherein the audience can actually give their comments, impression, and ask questions regarding the revised Joint Department Circular. And tentatively, we would end this activity at 3:30 p.m. So of course, everyone is invited to give their comments, as this is very important in these activities, the active participation of everyone in this meeting room. And of course, for those who are not able to join via the Zoom application, we refer you to our official YouTube channel wherein this activity is being simulcasted. And comments, participants who are not able to join the meeting can actually tune in using YouTube and input their questions there using the chat box. So first, the timeline of events leading up to the review of JDC 1 2016. So last August 2018, during the 10th NCBP meeting, there was a proposal from the implementing departments to review the Joint Department Circular Number 1, series of 2016. And then the following meeting, the succeeding two meetings actually, the proposal to create a technical working group for the review of the JDC was proposed. And then prospective members were identified. And then come May 2019, the DOST Special Order Number 0482 was issued, which creates the ad hoc technical working group for the review of the Joint Department Circular Number 1, series of 2016. And from June 2019 until May 2021, and bank meetings, subgroup meetings, special meetings with competent national authorities and other agencies were convened. Actually, the activity was the carrying out of function by the technical working group was prolonged due to the pandemic, due to the sudden disruption of transactions that we have to do. It proved to be challenging for the technical working group in the earlier phase of the lockdowns. However, come May 2021, the group was able to come up with the initial version of the revised Joint Department Circular. And then on June 2021, the final draft of the revision was circulated among the members of the ad hoc technical working group for their concurrence. Then come July 2021, the proposed revision of the Joint Department Circular was endorsed to the NCBP Chair and DOST Secretary Fortunato T. de la Peña, and it was presented to the NCBP during a special meeting. So from the presentation, the decision was we can subject this document to public consultation. Hence, we have convened this activity. It should be noted, however, that we will not present the whole document during this activity, as the document was provided earlier, as early as the first week of August. I believe that's first week of August. The link for you to use to download the revised Joint Department Circular was provided. However, if you have yet to secure your copy, you may message one of the secretariat and we will give it to you via email. So now, let's proceed to the basis for the review of the Joint Department Circular number 1. So the first basis was actually the ease of doing business law, which was passed in 2018, which states that for applications or requests involving activities which pose danger to the public health, public safety, public morals, public policy, and highly technical applications in which the JDC falls under, the prescribed processing time shall in no case be longer than 20 working days, or as determined by the government agency. So, with that being said, under the ease of doing business law, JDC should, the processing of applications under JDC should be done within 20 working days. However, based on the technical working group's consultation with the Anti-Red Tape Authority, or the ARTA, we were informed that a request can be made to extend the 20 working days to up to 40 working days. However, that's subject to the approval of the ARTA. And given the complexity and the levels of involved in the processing of applications under JDC, we were given the impression that the requests can be accommodated. So the second basis for the review of the JDC is the delays in the issuance of biosafety permits. So based on a presentation in May 2018, this was made at the Department of Agriculture, there are a significant number of delayed evaluations. So 32 applications for direct use are delayed beyond the 85-day working period, ranging from 131 to 745 days. It should be noted that in the original JDC 2016, applications should be processed within 85 days working period. However, based on the experiences during the presentation, it was identified that of those granted permits, the average number of this permit that was required before an applicant was able to get their permit, for direct use, it's 526.3 days, and for propagation, that's 380.3 days. And it does not even include those who have pending approvals during that May 2018 presentation, wherein on average, a direct use has been in the regulatory pipeline for direct use for 406.7 days additional, and then for propagation, 145 plus days, and field trial 670 plus days. Next, delays in the completion of evaluations by the agencies. So this is one of the reasons that was pointed out that severely affects the processing of applications. So for STRPs, DOHBC, DNRBC, SEC experts, and BAI, and even the PPSSD of PPI, they're given 30 days to accomplish their evaluations. However, let's just say for the STRPs, so instead of an STRP accomplishing it for only 30 days, it takes them 2.3 times more than 30 days. So that's around 60 plus days to accomplish their evaluation. And you can do the math for the other agencies. So given the delays in the completion of the evaluations, the approval gets delayed. So that's one of the reasons pointed out during the dialogue in 2018. Hence, that's one of the reasons that we are reviewing this joint department circular. So another reason is the non-synchronicity of single and stacked direct use events. So based on the same dialogue in May 2018, there are concerns that stack events may be invalidated once its single components expires. So back then, the DABC supported the case that biosafety permits of stack should remain valid independently from singles validity. Given those bases and reasons, the technical working group convened meetings, subgroup meetings, consultations with the competent national authorities involved in the implementation of the joint department circular to come up with the proposed, with the revised version of this document. So the following slides will give you an outline or an overview of the joint department circular. That is the revised joint department circular. Please be noted that as much as possible, we retain those provisions from the JDC 2016 that is applicable, and the changes were made to actually address the concerns raised earlier. So of course, there are preambulatory clauses in which we added the ease of doing business. Article 1 is still the general provisions. Article 2 is still biosafety decisions. Article 3 is the administrative framework. Under the administrative framework, the technical working group introduced the joint assessment group, which actually is personally the most salient revision in the implementation of the joint department circular, wherein a joint assessment or a single safety assessment will be conducted by the agencies involved, and they would come up with a recommendation to the BPI director for the approval of an application. And there is Section 7, BPI Biotechnology Unit, which actually just puts language on the current practice being implemented right now by the Bureau of Plant Industry. And Section 9, External Technical Experts. The main difference between external technical experts and the STRP is that an application does not need to be reviewed by an STRP. So external technical experts under this new JDC, an expert may be called upon to address a specific issue in the application that lies within their expertise, or whether a specific expertise needed to complete the assessment of an application does not exist among the biosafety committees of each competent national authorities. Until then, all the assessment would be made by members of the joint of each biosafety committees. And I will expound on that later when I show you the complete diagram of the processing of applications under the joint department circular. So Under Article 4, it's the contained use of regulated articles. Article 5 is the field trial of regulated articles. Article 6, commercial propagation. Article 7, direct use. Article 8, genetically modified plants and plant products with stock events. So this is one of the new revisions made in the Joint Department Circular, wherein we state a policy on the regulation of stock events under JDC. So Article 9 is the importation of regulated articles. Article 10 are just miscellaneous provisions. Now, we go to the salient revisions in the Joint Department Circular. So first, the BPI Biotech Unit. So it reads that the DABPI shall establish a biotech unit with dedicated staff and based within the NPQSD, or the National Plant Quarantine Services Division, to provide frontline services for the processing of applications for field trial, commercial propagation, and direct use permits. The BPI Biotech Unit shall also provide technical and administrative assistance to the Joint Assessment Group. So this is just a reiteration of the current practice in the implementation of the JDC1, wherein there's a unit within the NPQSD that handles the applications for biosafety permits. The next salient revision is the procedural requirements for securing a biosafety permit. As stated earlier, under the Ease of Doing Business law, we are allowed 20 working days subject to an extension upon approval of the Anti-Red Tape Authority. And once this document has been adopted, the request would be made to the ARTA. Next is the policy on field trial of regulated articles. So applications for permits for regulated articles developed in other countries may be filed directly for a biosafety permit for field trial if the BPI determines that the data set generated on the field trial conducted and or commercial propagation experienced in other countries are applicable to the local setting. This is just a reiteration of the data transportability for field trial, meaning that data set generated from other countries or from the commercial propagation in other country of origin, it can be used to support the biosafety permit application for field trial only if the Bureau of Plant Industry determines that the data set provided is applicable to the local setting. So that's in Article 5, Section 11. Publication of public information sheet for commercial propagation and direct use. So under this, the applicant shall publish a copy of the approved PIS for commercial propagation in one newspaper of general circulation. The approved PIS shall be published in the official website of the applicant and the official website of the Bureau of Plant Industry. Same is true with the publication of PIS for direct use. So in the current JDC1 2016, it is required that the PIS for commercial propagation and direct use be published in 2 newspapers of general circulation. However, in consideration of those research institutions, particularly the public research institutions who have budgetary constraints, instead of requiring them to publish in 2 newspapers, general circulation, which would cost significantly on part of the applicant, this joint department circular only calls for the publication in 1 newspaper. And in return, the approved PIS shall also be published in the official website of the applicant. and of course in the official website of the Bureau of Plant Industry. Next is the validity of biosafety permits for commercial propagation and direct use. For commercial propagation under Article 6, Section 15G, biosafety permit for commercial propagation shall be valid unless revoked for any reasons set in a specific section, Section 15J, revocation of biosafety permit for commercial propagation. Same is true with direct use. Biosafety permit shall remain valid unless revoked for reasons stated in Section 18J, revocation of biosafety permit for direct use. So originally in JDC 1 2016, a biosafety permit has a 5-year validity period and can be renewed. So under this revised JDC, once issued, a biosafety permit is valid and will be valid unless revoked for the reasons given in the Section 15J, which you may refer to in the complete document of the Joint Department revised Joint Department Circular. Next revision is the genetically modified plants and plant products with stock events. So this states that plants produced through conventional breeding of approved genetically modified parental lines and their derived products are not considered novel. The BPI can be requested to register stock events in the BPI approval registry for propagation or BPI approval registry for direct use, as the case may be. Meaning, as long as the single events to be used for the stock events, for the stocking, have an existing and valid biosafety permit, there is no need to undergo a separate evaluation for the approval of the stock events. So the permit holder may also request the BPI to register any sub-stocks. For example, you'd be doing 5 stocking of multiple events. There's no need for you to undergo a separate application under the Joint Department Circular. You just have to request to the BPI approval registry for it to be included in the approval registry. Next. Okay. So another is the petition for reconsideration. So in case of applications for field trial, commercial propagation, and direct use, an aggrieved party may request for a reconsideration of the decision to the DA Secretary within 15 working days from the announcement of the decision. The petition for reconsideration may involve payment of fees to cover the cost of the reevaluation of the decision made. So actually, the addition made in this section is the last sentence, wherein the petition for reconsideration may involve payment of fees to cover the cost of re-evaluation of the decision made. And under the transitory provision, all existing original and renewed biosafety permits for commercial propagation and direct use issued therein shall be valid unless otherwise revoked under conditions set in Section 15J for commercial propagation or Section 18J for direct use of this new Joint Department Circular. And effectivity, this JDC shall take effect 15 days after its publication in 2 newspapers of general circulation, and a copy of this issuance shall also be submitted to the University of the Philippines Law Center. So those are the salient provisions of the Joint Department Circular, the revised Joint Department Circular. And now, let me first present the process flow chart for processing of applications for field trial, commercial propagation, and direct use under this revised JDC. Let me just open the document. So first, we go to the procedural requirements for securing a biosafety permit for field trial. I hope everyone can see the image that I'm projecting. So if not, kindly notify me through the chat box. So procedural requirements for securing a biosafety permit for field trial. So from the receipt of the complete application up to the issuance of biosafety permit to the applicant, it is estimated that the application would take about 28 working days. So whenever we say days in this document, we pertain to it as number of working days, following the language of the ease of doing business law. So first, an applicant must submit a complete application before it can be accepted by the Bureau of Plant Industry. And then, the BPI should forward the application to the competent national authorities biosafety committees. They have 3 days to send out the complete applications to CNA biosafety committees. So the reason for it is that CNA's biosafety committees must endorse 2 representatives to the joint assessment group. At the same time, the BPI should send an invitation to the applicant to be present during the joint assessment group meeting. However, this would not be done face-to-face. It's just that during the meeting, the communication lines of the applicant must be open during the conduct of the first joint assessment group meeting. This can be done virtually or in any form that would be agreeable to both parties. So, from once the CNAs receive the applications from the BPI, they have 5 days to select their representatives to the joint assessment group and endorse them to the BPI. So, again, after 5 days, they should convene the first joint assessment group meeting. So, for every application, there will be a separate joint assessment group. However, it does not stop a joint assessment group if they want to actually assess multiple applications. If there are simultaneous applications that follows the same timeline under the joint department circular. So during the first JAG meeting or the joint assessment group meeting, the question is, are all safety concerns addressed? So it's either yes or no. If there are still concerns that needs to be addressed, within 5 working days after the first joint assessment group meeting, they may convene a second joint assessment group meeting. And during the 5-day period, the applicant are given time to address issues in writing. So any additional concerns, safety concerns raised during the first JAG meeting that was not addressed by the applicant, they have 5 days to respond in writing. So after the second joint assessment group meeting, the group must be able to come up with a decision. So if all safety concerns are addressed, the BPI shall prepare the evaluation report, and the joint assessment group, with the help of the BPI Biotech unit, shall prepare the report and circulate it among the members within 7 days after the second joint assessment group meeting. So, if the joint assessment group report is in order, the JAG shall endorse approval of an application to the BPI director. Again, based on the safety assessment undertaken by the joint assessment group, they would endorse approval of an application to the BPI director. So within that 7 days, the joint assessment group, with the help of the biotech unit, may revise the report until they find it appropriate that the report that they would submit to the BPI director is sufficient. And then, before we go to this side, it is worth noting that on the left side of this diagram, it pertains to the public participation mechanism of the application process. So once the application is received by the Bureau of Plant Industry, within 10 days, the applicant rather is given 10 days to post notices for field trial and public comments, including the approved public information sheet and invitation to attend the public hearing. So within 10 days before the conduct of the public hearing, the PIS and notices for public comments for the field trial activity shall be posted in conspicuous places at the barangay and the local government unit. So it's either city or municipality. So after 10 days, applicants should summarize all the issues and concerns raised during that period, and a deliberation from the LGU Sangguniang may be undertaken. So during the deliberation of the LGU Sangguniang, the applicant, the issues and concerns summarized by the applicant as well as the public information sheet would be used during the deliberation of the LGU Sangguniang. The deliberation is being made to gain approval or disapproval for them to undertake their field trial project in the locality through an issuance of a resolution. So the LGU is given 5 working days to accomplish it. So once the applicant received the resolution to conduct field trial on the locality, together with the summary of issues and concerns, these 2 documents would be submitted to the BPI director. So at the office of the BPI director, at this stage, lies 3 documents: the LGU resolution, the summaries of issues and concerns, and the report generated by the joint assessment group based on the safety evaluation. So given those documents, the BPI director is given 3 working days to make a decision whether to issue a biosafety permit for field trial or not. So if approved, a biosafety permit for field trial will be issued to the applicant by the Bureau of Plant Industry. Now, once received, the applicant has 2 years to commence or to start the field trial activity. So given that, the total number of days for processing of applications is more or less 28 working days. Actually, looking at the process flow for commercial propagation and direct use, the process of safety evaluation is just the same among the 3 applications. Hence, the total number of days of processing of applications is within 28 working days. However, the public participation aspect of commercial propagation and direct use is different from field trial, because under commercial propagation and field trial, as you can see, they have the same process flow. So for the public participation aspect for commercial propagation, Again, posting of public approved public information sheet and posting of application at the ABPI and NCBP websites. Public is then given 10 working days to provide their comments, and these comments would be consolidated and would be summarized that would within 2 days, and after 2 working days again, it would be submitted to BPI director for reference. Now, at this stage, the BPI director would have two documents: the summary of public comments and the report from the joint assessment group. This would be used by the BPI director as basis to issue a biosafety decision, whether to issue a permit or not for commercial propagation and direct use within 3 working days. So if the director does not approve the application, an appeal may be made to the Department of Agriculture Secretary. So again, the total number of days for processing of application, for the 3 processes under this revised joint department circular is more or less 28 working days. Let me go back to the slide presentation quickly. Now, you may send your comments via email at secretariat@ncbp@gmail.com. You may also download a copy of the revised Joint Department Circular using the link below. Again, during the first consultation, it was asked whether we would provide this slide presentation and the process flow. And yes, we would provide it also via a downloadable link. So once we were able to upload it in a downloadable link, the link would be sent out to everyone for reference, and you may download it. So before I turn you over to Mamalu for the I guess open floor question and answer, or for you to give your comments on the revised joint department circular, let me first inform you of the schedule of the next multi-stakeholders consultation. So the third stakeholders consultation will be held on the 24th of August via Zoom meeting platform and broadcasted via YouTube. Again, we would be using different Zoom link because as you all know, during post-meeting, we remove those people who are maybe away from the keyboard from the meeting room link. And once the owner of the meeting room removes an individual, it may be difficult for him or her to enter the same meeting room. Hence, for ease of access for everyone and to prevent any technical issues, we opted to use different meeting room links for each stakeholders consultation. Again, this would be simultaneously broadcasted via YouTube. So starting August 10 until August 31, 2021, the public may send their comments on the revised JDC via email at secretariat@ncbp@gmail.com. Notice of public consultations and possible changes in the schedule will be communicated via email. So during the last meeting, we were able to receive some comments from different agencies and institutions. And this would be addressed and would be uploaded in our NCBP official website. So we're just finalizing everything before we upload to our NCBP website. And once it is up, it is safe to assume that you will all be informed, since we would be sending out notifications to everyone in our mailing list. So if there are people here who are not yet part of our mailing list, kindly send your email addresses to us via the chat below or via by sending an email to secretariat@ncbp@gmail.com. So that's all for my presentation. Again, I'm Raymond Corona from the NCBP Secretariat. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Raymond, for the presentation. So I'm now looking at the chat box, and there are quite a number of comments and suggestions, reactions in the chat box. So we have one from Mr. Jos Sumage from the APRS. Actually, his comment is quite long, but then the DAPRS, the Policy Research team or research section in DA, is actually suggesting for the TWG to consider changing the term biosafety permit to biosafety clearance, because they have developed currently they have developed administrative circular that aims to institutionalize the harmonized definition of terminologies. So they are suggesting that for the JDC, we also adopt, or we also follow or comply with the said admin circular. So Mr. Sumage, this will be duly noted, and this will be forwarded to the technical working group for deliberation and discussion. And then we have another question from Dr. Gabi Romero. He's asking if the JAG can meet virtually. Well, sir, if the situation is still the same, that if we're still not normal, we're still not normal in the normal condition, then I think the JAG has no option but to meet virtually. So there's one question from Dr. Martina Castellon from Erie. As a formality, the acronym PIS is not properly defined in section 2 or elsewhere in the document. So under the JDC, for JDC, the acronym or the meaning of PIS is Public Information Sheet. So yun po, that's it, Ms. Dr. Castellon. PIS means Public Information Sheet. And then again, from Ms. Merly Palakpak, I think the number of days for getting approval of the Sanggunian is very short, especially if you will get approvals for multi-location trials. We think you're right in your opinion, Ma'am Merly, but then we believe, or the technical working group believes, that LGUs are also compelled to comply with the ease of doing business law, or the ARTA law. We have one comment from Mr. Manalo of C-Rise. For genuine public comments to transpire, I believe the 10-day period for comments must be extended, especially if you are to consider various nature of organizations. Well, as I've said, or as we've said earlier and in the presentation, it's very clear that we really have to comply with the ease of doing business law. But then, Mr. Manalo, this will be forwarded to the technical working group for consideration. This is also another question from Ms. Mamerly. Is the BPI informed, or did they agree that the biotechnology unit will be under the NPQSD? Mamerly, we are under the impression that we are under the impression that following AO8, the voided AO8, then there would be no reason for the technical working group to put the responsibility or put the biotech unit in other agencies or sections. But then again, Ma'am Merly, your question will be forwarded to technical working group. And yes, we take note that maybe there's really a need for the technical working group to consult first the BPI. Can signatories provide e-signatures? Actually, with the Dust by Safety Committee, we have actually developed or crafted an interim guideline that during this pandemic situation, then we would be allowing or accepting e-signatures. But then for the JDC, I think we have to forward this query to the technical working group for them to respond on it. So from the ILG, Dr. Dr. Daus, can I ask 2 questions? Have 2 concerns only from. So what was the question po, sir? Virtual meeting is now the new normal.
I'll unmute po si General Daus from the ILG so
okay,
he can
sir.
ask question po.
Okay.
And then si Mr. Ed De Luna po from Crop Life Philippines is also raising his hand. So after po ni General Daus, si Mr. Ed De Luna naman po.
Hello, good afternoon, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon po, Mr. Daos.
Ma'am, may observation na ako on page 6 of this draft circular, paragraph CC, on item CC, sanitary and phytosanitary import clearance. The definition refers to the document issued prior to importation by the concerned bureau or agency to ensure that the products being imported meet standards to protect humans, animal or plant life or health, ensuring that the agricultural and fishery products are safe for consumers, and to prevent the spread of pests or diseases among animals or plants. My question is, hindi ba pwedeng include yung humans kasi we have set do sa unang to protect humans, animal or plant life.
Yes, sir.
And to prevent the spread of pests or diseases among animals or plants.
Yes,
Animals
sir.
or plants lang, ma. Can we not include the diseases?
Sige po, sir.
Include
Noted.
the humans. And
Noted
then
po.
second concern, ma'am, once the biosafety permit have already approved by the and issued to the applicant, and they will be engaged already in the business, is it a prerequisite in the issuance of a business permit of the LGU?
Sir, actually, we have not privy po on the requirements of the LGU for what permits do they require. So, sir, we will forward po your
Yes.
yes.
The authority to issue permit based on the local who
Yes,
will
sir.
engage in the business,
Yes, sir.
business within their locality.
Yes,
So
sir.
those businessman or entrepreneur will have their business in their locality in that line of business. They will apply a business permit. May I suggest that we should include in this circular that in the issuing of a business permit of the local, it must be a prerequisite.
Sige po, sir. Your suggestion po. is
Kasi
good
nga,
to know.
para since the DLG is one of the member of this committee, a joint committee, so that we can supervise them if this circular is being implemented by the LC or the LGU. Yun lang po, ma'am. Thank
Yes
you.
po. Thank you po. Thank you po, sir. We will forward po your concern to our technical working group. Again, Raymond, who else would?
Si
Dr.
Mr.
Dudley.
Ed De Luna po from Crop Life Philippines.
Thank you very much, Raymond, Malu.
Yes, sir.
Magandang hapon po sa atin lahat.
Opo.
Ito po naman sa amin, these are not actually comments but manifestations. May I be allowed 2 to 3 minutes?
Yes po. Sige po, sir.
Our member companies welcome this initiative po to revise JDC 1. While there were renewals and new approvals granted since JDC 1 took effect in 2016, there were also notable delays in the review and approval process as already presented. And we are glad that the proposed revision include compliance with the ease of doing business law. Timely review and approval of biosafety permits means timely availability of products for commercial use in the case of new products or events. In the case of permits renewal, it means our farmers will continue to enjoy the benefits of these improved products. It also means no or minimal trade disruption, often caused by the delayed renewal of expiring permits. Additionally, in case of products for direct use, timely processing of application will avert uncertainties experienced before by end users like those in the feed milling and the food industries. We welcome the proposed revision that biosafety permits do not have expiration. We are strongly committed to our obligation to promptly report to the regulators any new information not consistent with the previous biosafety evaluation. Also, we are glad to note that we have a dynamic and responsive biosafety guidelines and regulations, and these remain to be science-based, risk proportionate, time-bound, and consistent with the international guidelines and standards. We believe also and support the administrative framework that particularly defines the mandate, not just of DA, but that of BPI as regulatory agency. Additionally, CropLife will submit its comments and suggestions formally to NCBP. We express our gratitude to the NCBP, the TWG, and other agencies and individuals in coming up with the proposed revisions of JDC 1, which are now subject of this public consultation. And lastly, we express our hope for the issuance of the revised JDC guidelines soon. Thank you very much. Those are just manifestations from CropLife Philippines.
Yes, sir. Thank you po, sir. And we will wait po for your formal position letter to the technical working group. So, can we proceed, Ray? Meron ka pang ano, or can we proceed with
Yes
the...
po. I think let's first read po yung mga nasa comments, starting from the comments. After the comment of General Warlito Daus, we read the comments po, and then we would recognize po Miss Elizabeth Pua who raised her hand after yung mga comments po.
So, there's a question from, this is just a reaction from Dr. Alfonso. It is well appreciated that NCBP is being proactive in reviewing and revising the biosafety guidelines, taking into consideration the country's experiences in commercializing biotech products for almost 2 decades now, as well as relevant developments in the country and in other countries. And then we have a question po from Dr. Padulina. Can we get a general exemption from ARTA rather than request exemption on a case-to-case basis? Sir, sige po, we will explore the possibility po of getting a general exception from ARTA po on this exceptional case on the JDC. And then there's a comment from Dr. Mamaril. It may be better to use BPI in the text of the JDC rather than biotechnology unit. So noted po, Dr. Mamaril. And then there's one again from Mr. Manalo of Sirais. Given the complexity of the assessments, concurrently for substantial comments to be made, why not have the exemption of the processes from the ease of doing business rather than a case-per-case basis? So this is the same question po with Dr. Padulina. So this will be noted po, sir. And then another comment from Dr. Choi. I think there's an existing guidelines from DICR regarding the use of e-signature. Yes, yes, Dr. Mamari, we will try to explore po, or we will review these guidelines po from DICR using e-signatures. And then again, another comment from a question from Ma'am Merly, who will do the post-approval monitoring for food trials and commercialization. For at the moment, Ma'am Merly, the BPI or the quarantine service is still will still be the one to do the post-approval monitoring for food trials and commercialization, specifically with the IRM requirements. Yun, may typo error daw si Doc Choi. And then this is a comment from Tracy of BPI Biotech. Currently, the BPI Biotech office is under the Office of the Assistant Director for Regulatory Services based on the organizational structure. So, Ms. Tracy, we will be, the technical working group will be deliberating on this again after this second stakeholder consultation. Again, another question from Dr. Romero: if time of review by expert and agency lapses, does it automatically forfeit their chance? Thus, the application moves to the next step. This concern po will be forwarded to the technical working group for their deliberation. And then there's a comment again from Dr. Padulina regarding e-signatures. Please review COA memo number 2021-013 dated 9 June 2021, which contains guidelines on the use of electronic documents in government transactions. Noted po on this, Dr. Padulina, and thank you po. From Dr. Martina Castillon, again from ERI, Republic Act 8792 establishes the conditions for accepting digital signatures. Thank you, Dr. Castillon, for giving us the link to this Republic Act 8792. From Dr. Gonzalez, under the JDC 2016, there was a full article devoted to the regulated articles. How is this reflected in the proposed JDC? And how does this relate to the new process of revocation of permits? Are they related at all? So also, under po sa proposed revised JDC, there will be no the regulation na po, but the permit also will not have any expiration. But then, if there would be any non-compliance or violation of the permit conditions, then the by safety permit will be revoked po based on the permit conditions in the by safety permit. And then which document will regulate transgenic animals, including livestock and poultry? Under the JDC po, sir, the Bureau of Animal Industry is doing the feed safety assessment for GM. But if what you meant is transgenic animals, it's not covered po by the JDC. So which document will regulate transgenic microorganisms, probiotics? From Dr. Dennis Guerrero po again, has there been an assessment of the implementation of JDC 2016? What were the perceived defects? Are this related to implementation or in the prescribed process? The AODB applies separately to the agencies involved, so there are several 28-day period applicable to them. So in the presentation po, Raymond presented what are the basis for the review of this JDC. So he actually indicated po in the presentation that the basis for the review were the ease of doing business law, and then the delays in evaluation, and the delays in the issuance of biosafety permit. So those are some of the basis po why there's a review of the implementation of JDC. And then what is the role of other DA agencies like BAI, PPSSD, of BPI in the risk assessment? Meron pa ba? Currently po, Ma'am Merly, the BAI, the Bureau of Animal Industry, will still conduct the feed safety assessment. The PPSSD would be responsible for the food safety assessment. So, yun pa din po, same role pa din po. They still play the same role. They still have the same role, BAI and PPSSD, for the risk assessment po. If the sole basis for the revision is EODB, why are the other provisions not related to the law also amended, like the confidentiality provisions and the deregulation? Sir, we will forward po this concern to the technical working group for their deliberation. So, and again, another question was, why was the regulation removed? So your concerns po, your questions are duly noted, Mr. Guerrero. Again from Dr. Martina Castellon, as per Section 2, the definition of plants is restricted for the plant kingdom. What regulation will be used for FTs, for GMMOs? GMMOs is genetically modified microorganism, or microbial organism. So for FTs, for example, for bacteria, for bioremediation. Dr. Castillon, your concern po will be forwarded to the technical working group for deliberation or for consideration. And si Ma'am Merly po again, so if there is no regulation, the permit conditions will have to be complied by the developer forever. Your concern po will be forwarded to the technical working group.
I'll be asking Miss Elizabeth Pua to unmute po because she's raising her hand. And then si Mr. Gabi Romero po next.
Ako si Elizabeth Pua, isang seed dealer. Naniniwala po ako na malaking bagay na maamyandahan ng JDC 1 para higit po itong makatulong sa pangangailangan ng magsasaka. Halimbawa, para mas mabilis ng pagproseso para sa evaluate at mabigyan ng biosafety permit ang bagong uri ng mga binhi at mapakinabangan din po kaagad ng magsasaka. Yun lang po.
Salamat po, Ms. Pua. Thank you po.
Thank you.
Sir Gabi.
Magandang hapon po sa lahat. So, nakakatuwa po na nakakatuwa po na nire-revise ang JDC. JDC 1 was functional, but we appreciate the initiative of the government to streamline. At saka totoo po na this will fast track the approval process, especially yung mga stocks. Hindi na po sila i-evaluate separately, mag-hold na yung approvals na single. At nakakatuwa rin na wala na rin pong expiry sa biosafety permit kasi talagang malaking trabaho po to sa technology developer. At the same time, trabaho din to ng government side. Pero hindi naman nawawala yung continuous monitoring. And I agree na bound pa rin ang technology developers dun sa mga permit conditions. Pero mas malaki po ang trabaho involved during the renewal process. And we also support yung shorter public comment. In fact, earlier when the JDC 1 was being formulated, we already expressed na hindi naman kailangan ng napakahabang public comment period because in the past, yung 30 days ay hindi naman na-exhaust. Tapos bakit pahabain ng 60 days? So if you look at the records, wala pong difference yung nag-30 days, nag-60 days. And so we support the shorter. It's 10 days now. There may be some reservations there, but we support na mas maikli talaga. Sa 60 days at mas maikli sa 30 days. So at saka itong mas mabilis na process, makakatulong po ito sa maraming technology developers, marami pong mga companies. By the way, PSIA is an association of seed companies or seed institutions, public and private, and meron din kami mga small at saka mga big players. Makakatulong po ito sa lahat At kapag mas mababa ang cost ng regulation, mas maiengganyo po natin ang mga seed institutions na mag-produce ng mga magagandang varieties for the benefit of our farmers and eventually our consumers. Kaya sinusuportahan po namin itong mga initiatives na ito ng Technical Working Group. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sir Gabby. Salamat po. Ray, do we still have Ma'am Charo? Are you raising your hand, Ma'am Charo? Yes. Okay. Ma'am, you're unmute.
Okay, thank
You're
you.
mute. You're mute.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Loud and clear
Okay.
po.
So I already wrote my comments kasi
Yes, ma'am.
wala nang deregulation nga. One time na lang ito, wala nang renewal ng permit. So importante na may liability clause.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Opo.
So dapat hindi na issue ang time frame. Dapat you
Time
should
frame.
give them sufficient time. The regulatory agencies should be given sufficient time to review, and likewise the what do you call this? The applicant should be given sufficient time to provide documents, etc. Kasi one time lang naman to. So sa mga cases of field test, ano ba yung pinag-usapan kanina? I think hindi na issue yon IRTA because you only do it once. Di ba? Wala nang issue ang time frame. Second is, I'd like to comment on clearance. Well, kung one time na lang to, then it's really a clearance. I think it's great na clearance. Dalawa is, I'd like to comment on the comment na isama yung diseases to humans. Actually, the Food Safety Act is responsible for the safety of processed prepackaged food. Pati naman DA kasi
Yes, ma'am.
so if there's regarding saturated fat seeds, so there's now an executive order of the DOH, admin trans fatty acids, actually trans fatty acids not saturated in the Filipino diet. Then it's also pending legislation. Tapos, well, yun nga, the DOH kasi regarding diseases, addresses non-communicable diseases also. I think, let's say, in the case trans fatty acids. So, ayun, the liability clause, as I mentioned earlier, should be for every clearance.
Yes,
So,
ma'am.
if you have a good liability clause, I think that's very functional one. I don't know how it will work. I guess you should ask the lawyers to craft it. I think that would be a good remedy. If we don't anymore we only have a clearance and no more renewal, etc. Thanks, Malu.
Thank you, Ma'am Charo. Your comments and suggestions po are duly noted by the Secretariat. Thank you po. Do we still have questions in the chat box? Yes, we have one from Attorney Paz Benavides. Did the BPI actively participate in the revision of the JDC, considering that the director will issue the permit and all accountabilities will be his? He is given 3 days to decide. Is that enough? During the drafting po, or during the crafting of the revision of the JDC po, ma'am, the DA po was represented by Dr. Choi Mamaril and Dr. Lenny Galvez po. So we will again po review the timelines that are in the proposed revision, ma'am. So the TWG will deliberate again on the timelines that were proposed in the JDC. So there was a comment from Dr. Choi. Yes, clearance is more appropriate than permit. The terms and conditions for each kind of permit for clearance could be included in the revised JDC. So ayun nga. So ang ano po, si Doc Choi po and si Ma'am Lenny Galvez po ay representing DA, not BPI.